Okay. All right, so I think we're ready to begin, so I'll take a motion to open the meeting here.
I'll make a motion to open.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so just want to welcome everybody to the January 25th, 2024 meeting of the Groveland Community Preservation Committee. And I thought what we would do first is we'll start with Kim over there and just tell us your name and who you represent for the committee.
I'd be glad to. My name's Kim Jackson, and I am representing the Groveland Housing Authority.
Ed Watson, Board of Selectmen.
Linda Frail, Historical Commission.
E.J. McNulty, Planning Board.
Jason Naves, Open Space.
And Mike Dempsey, Groveland Conservation Commission.
Alex Woods, Finance Board.
Microphone problems. Okay, great. Yeah, so Alex is a new member from the Finance Board, so we want to welcome him. And I'm just going to give you a little overview of what we're going to do tonight. You've got the agenda, members, but what we're going to do is primarily tonight review the proposals that were submitted at the end of the year. So we've got a total of 8 proposals for 2024 funding. And tonight we're going to allow each presenter to come forward and tell us briefly a little bit about their project, and we'll get to ask questions, and the presenter can answer as many as possible. And that's all we're going to do. We're not going to vote on the projects because we may want some more information based on what the project is. We may ask for more written information. We may want some just answers to some of our questions. So we'll give everybody the chance to do that for 3 weeks, and then we'll come back and meet again on February 15th. That's when we will vote on each project. And what happens after that, basically the projects go through a process, and eventually town meeting gets to vote on each and every one. So in between that, though, some of the other folks that take a look at the projects and just want to be able to weigh in on them, are the Finance Board and the Board of Selectmen. So usually I do that, but certainly if you want to come, it doesn't hurt to have the presenter there to be able to answer any specific questions. I'm very familiar with every one of these proposals, so usually I can get through the questions, but like I say, it helps if the presenter is there. So that's what we're going to do. As I say, the agenda tonight is primarily to hear from the presenters. And so I'm just going to tell our CPC members what we've got here. Presumably, we've all been able to read the projects, and we're ready to hear from our presenters, and we maybe have some questions for each one. But I'll go over the 8 projects we have. We have community garden design phase, and that's put forward by Jan Dempsey. Washington Hall on the National Historic Registry, put forward by Claire Walsh. Shade and seating at the Pines, put forward by Rebecca Oldham. Town clerk scanning documents, put forth by Elizabeth Cuniff. Perry Park design phase, put forward by Stephanie Bartelt. 114 Center Street purchase, put forward by myself. Pines parking enhancements, put forward by Rebecca Oldham. And Shanahan Field parking, put forward by Rebecca Oldham. So we have quite a diverse diverse collection of projects here to go through. So we'll start with,
Mike, a point of order.
sure,
At our last meeting, we tabled the appointment of the chairman till we had a full committee.
Oh,
and-
yes.
And I don't see it on the agenda, so I don't think that we could actually deal with that because it's not an agenda item.
I apologize for that. I missed that one, but we'll put it on the February 15th, if that's okay. Okay, thanks, Ed. Okay, so the first project we'll hear from is the community garden design phase and Jan Dempsey.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for
Hi.
having me here tonight. Basically, I was walking in the Pines a couple of months ago, and I had heard that the old dog park fence was going to be taken down. And as I was walking through there, I thought, you know, here we have this fence and a perfect spot for a potential community garden. Some of the reasons why it is a really good area for an idea like this is that it's in a spot where the community already gathers. It's in good proximity to a lot of apartment dwellers in town who could walk to it and who don't have room to do any gardening necessarily because they live in an apartment. Also, it has full sun and a water source, and it already has the fence. So I thought to myself, and I talked to Rebecca about it as well, that it would be an enhancement to our town to have something like that. As far as I know, there is no other community garden in town except the one at Nichols Village, which obviously is only open to residents of Nichols Village. And I do know, because my mom lived there for a number of years, how much people really enjoy it. Not only is it a place where you can gather together, people that like to garden or want to learn more about gardening, who want to grow their own food, who want to grow flowers, can share seeds and plants and ideas. It's a great meeting space. So I felt that it would be good for our town since we don't have something like that already. And my proposal basically is $4,500, which would be for a phase one of a design phase for the project, just to map everything out and to figure out how much it would cost to put this together, to get more information. And the estimate that I have for the $4,500 is from Kurt Habel, who is the owner of Family Farms. He's from Reading. And I've done work with him before, so I was really pleased that he was able to come out on such short notice and look at the project. And he felt it was a good project for us to go and explore a little more further. So basically, those are the reasons why I'm bringing this for the town. And I'm happy to take any questions if anyone has any.
Yep, go ahead, Kim.
You say phase one,
Yes,
so I assume that next year you'll be submitting another cost for the actual construction of the raised garden areas or something to that effect?
depending on how this design phase goes, that would be the plan. If it comes out positive, as far as that the infrastructure is going to be well-suited for that. And the design, already looking at it, it's a large enough space. It's about 8,000 square feet. it would be able to accommodate a number of gardens, a seating area. There's already a spot there that's fenced in for, compost,
Yeah.
yard waste. That's already there, it just needs to be spruced up a little bit. All those things, the soil sample would be taken during the design phase,
Yeah.
and figuring out what we need to do with the Conservation Commission because of its proximity to the river. So
Did-
those would be taken care of.
Did you do any preliminary soil samples to find out exactly how much loam is there? Because basically, this was the pits, the sand pits.
Right, it is a sandy soil, you're absolutely right, and that's why raised beds would be necessary to make it work well.
I'm all set.
Okay. Any other questions from anybody else?
Town use only? Is it for just Groveland residents only, or is it open to, how does they typically work?
Usually with a community garden, you do have an application process, because you have to figure out who's using which spaces, and there's rules, obviously, that go with it. I think you could do Groveland preferred, but since it's CPA, you couldn't tell other people that they couldn't use it. But I would imagine that it would have the most value to people, to the great population that we have right around Town Hall, who
Yep.
don't have any opportunity to do something like this.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead, Ed.
The community gardens in a lot of municipalities, and they seem to go over quite well. Most of the ones I've seen are the raised beds. And I just don't think there's any other place in Groveland that you could put one.
Oh, really? Well, this does have a lot of good features to it. It really does. Having the full sun, it's already a public space. It's recreation related, it's exercise, outdoors, gardening. People already gather there. And plus, I think it has a benefit of beautifying the area as well. Right now, the old dog park, it's kind of overgrown. So I think this would be an enhancement to the whole area.
West Newbury has a community garden, Georgetown has one,
Yeah.
kind of overgrown though.
They take maintenance, that's true.
What's that?
They take maintenance, that's true. Like everything else.
But it seems like a decent spot for it. And were you looking for lights of some sort there too?
I didn't have that in my proposal, no.
Is there existing water on on that section?
I was told from Rebecca that yes, there is,
Okay.
because that is key. You're absolutely right. You have to have some source of water.
I'm almost set, Mike, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from anybody else?
The only thing, excuse me.
Yeah.
The only thing we'd have to think about later and speak with Concom is if any of the people in the raised beds want to use certain chemicals that might affect the river.
Well, that would be definitely one of the rules too,
Yeah.
as far as if you're going to have a garden there, what you can and can't use.
Fine?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. All right, I guess we're all set, Jan. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, we've got the Washington Hall National Registry proposal from Claire Walsh.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
So, I think all of you probably know by now how much work we've put into this building and how we feel about it. And I hope you've all been in there at some point to see how great it looks.
It's a lot better than when I had the scout troop in there.
I'll tell you, when we took those boards off and got inside the building, we were just I don't know, I can't put a word to it right now. It was pretty bad. So, the last survey that we had done for the town, historical survey, the surveyor recommended that we put this on the National Register. So, you know, that's pretty much how we got this little push to do this. And, you know, we want to preserve this building. We want to have it stand out as something really special. And, you know, we feel it will with doing something like this. I don't think we have any other building in town, you know, except for a few houses. And I think it's less than 5 houses that are on the register, so it isn't something that Groveland has really looked at in the past to do, so I think it's a good thing. You know, they help you preserve the building, and, you know, if we have any financial issues that come up, we would probably be able to get some money to take care of that. So, did you read the information? Does anyone have any questions about the whole project?
Yeah, Kim?
Yeah, no, I read it, and all the history of everything through it, and it was very nice. Is there any restrictions once it goes on the National Register?
They do have some. I haven't really looked into restrictions per se.
I would assume, you know, you can't change
I-
the shape of the structure or anything else.
No.
But-
No, you know, the way that has been restored, it was restored to its original state.
Yeah.
Okay. We didn't even change the windows. You know, if you look at the glass, there's a lot of wavy glass
It did
in there.
improve the plumbing.
Well, we had to. Plumbing was pretty bad, but we won't get into that.
Oh, okay. And presently, where is there a budgeted amount in the town budgets toward maintenance of the building? Or is
The Historical Society
is
maintains it.
is maintaining the
In
building?
fact, we're up for another inspection for the lift that we have, okay? It's every 2 years, and it's going to be somewhere between $2,500 and $3,000 this year. So it's a good chunk of change, but we always pay for that,
Okay,
okay? And we pay the bills on it, and there's a few things that, you know, if it's really, you know, more than we can handle, we might reach out.
Claire, can you tell us, so what are the advantages of this building being on the National Historic Registry?
Well, you know, it's really going to point out a lot of the history behind the building. This building was put up as a community center, and we really feel it may be the oldest, or one of the oldest community centers in the country. But we really haven't been able to, you know, certify that at this point. The man that built the mills, Mr. Hale, built that building, and because of the mills, this is really what makes this building so, you know, special, because he built it for his people that he brought over from England and Ireland to work in the mills. He built like 53 or something, 55 houses for them to live in, because when they came over here, they didn't have any money, they didn't have any place to go, so he built Washington Hall, he built the houses, and he totally built the Episcopal Church. He gave the land to the Catholics for the Catholic Church. So he was really, really very, very generous. And so, you know, when you tie that into this building, it really makes it pretty special.
So it would, could bring the building more renown as far as beyond Groveland, I would say, right?
I would say so.
Yeah, and also, I would say the other big advantage is open you up to other historic grants, because to this point, we've only been able to use our own CPA historic funds to rehabilitate the building.
Correct.
So going forward, if you had some other larger project that you had to be done, or something that need to be repaired or whatever, you could apply, and there, most other larger historic preservation funders want it to be on the National Historic Registry. So I think those are two big advantages.
It is a big advantage to have it. So we hope that you'll be in favor of it, and we thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Claire. Next, we've got the shade and seating at the Pines, presented by Rebecca Oldham, our town administrator. I'm going in order of lowest cost to highest cost, if you were wondering where am I going here.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. So the proposal you see before you is for shade structures, 2 of them, one of which would be at the Pines Recreation, specifically by the playground area, and the other would be in between where we are proposing to place the splash pad and the playground area. This request specifically came from the Recreation Committee during our conversations about what was needed in that particular area. A lot of the families had mentioned that there's no place to really sit and watch their children, or that there was the equipment that we recently installed was becoming overheated, so that they would request that there be some shade options that could be extended over the play structures so that they didn't get so hot in the sun and the humid weather. And then again, provide an additional area where people could congregate under a shaded structure other than the pavilion, which is currently on the grounds. So the proposal is for the 2 shade structures, again, one by the play structure and then the other in between, and also for additional seating in that vicinity so that people have a place to sit and to enjoy the Pines Recreation area. Happy to answer any questions.
And the total amount
The
is
total project cost is
21.
$21,426.
So, yeah.
We use the park regularly, and I like the idea because it is a lot of sun, and it's difficult with youngins to be there and not have a break from it, so, thank you.
How does it work in the wintertime with snow?
So the shade structures that we're proposing to use are kind of the sail structures. So similar to what you'll see in other playground areas, those will need to be removed during the winter season, and then they'll be stored, and then they will be reinstalled. The installation is minimal with the size of the structure that we're proposing. So total added maintenance in terms of installing and taking down is about a half hour for both of the play structures. For both of the the shade structures, and then we would store that here at Town Hall and then bring it out again in the spring months when the winter has subsided, and we can install those. And I believe I also included in the application the life expectancy of the sail as well, and the replacement cost, which is about, I believe is pretty minimal. So it's the fabric is expected to last up to 10 to 15 years. And I think that the replacement cost is about $500 for the actual fabric itself, not necessarily the structure.
Yeah, go ahead, Ed.
I think there should be a map associated with this, so we know exactly where the the units are going to go, as well as the benches. I didn't see any map attached. And could you explain this, these shade units, single post, 14 by 14 with an 8-foot entry with quick release? What do you mean by 8-foot entry? So the sides are going to be blocked off? Because it doesn't look like it with the picture that was provided.
So it's just like a sail, it's one of the fabrics that are pulled tight among the metal posts that are installed. So there is no
What's the
side.
8-foot entry?
Rebecca, do you want me to, Hi, my name's Annie Schindler. I'm the town planner and conservation agent. I helped Rebecca get the quote together for this. The clearance, some of the other product specs that this company puts together has the shade structure lower in certain areas. So that clearance level is where it denotes the lowest part. But for the one we're proposing, it's all that one height. So that's why it says the clearance. It's just kind of for their other models that show where it varies more.
Okay, so that's the height.
Yep, so that's the bottom height where the shade structure kind of ends, and then it goes up from there.
Perhaps, Mike, we could get, for the next meeting, a map of where these are going, and the benches there too also. Benches certainly are needed, but I'd like to see where these are gonna be put up.
Consider it done.
Okay. Any other questions on this? No? Okay, thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one is the town clerk scanning documents.
Good evening. I am requesting the scanning and digitizing of the town reports that we have in the vault. The vendor that I went to for the estimate is eBuzz Docs, and they are one of the vendors that is always represented at the Mass Town Clerks conferences, and they have a good reputation. The estimated cost is $29,717.54, and it's a total of 120 books that they will digitize and make. They'll be accessible to be able to search online for information that you're looking for, which will be wonderful for me when people ask for information and they're not sure what year something happened, and I scan through 10 years' worth of town reports, taking a look at looking for the information. It takes some time. This would be a wonderful alternative. It will also preserve the documents historically for good.
Yeah, Kim, go ahead.
Two questions. Is there any other company closer than New York? Something in Massachusetts? Because I read in the proposal that they're going to send a vehicle over, and a coordination of the person that's driving the vehicle, company representative, and a representative from the town to load the vehicle, and they'll be transported back to New York for the, I can't pronounce it
Digitizing
properly,
process,
the
yeah.
digitalization. And then I assume that the records come back.
Yes.
And then, is there the other thing was, you're driving out the Mass Pike or something, and all of a sudden there's a vehicle accident. I mean, do we and something goes wrong, do we lose all those records before they're they're fixed?
Digitized. I have duplicates of most of them, so I was kind of hesitant on giving the ones I don't have duplicates of, but I do have duplicates of most. There are only a
Yeah.
few years that I don't have. So
Unless
we
they're
wouldn't
gonna-
lose our only copy.
Unless they're gonna send them out in a special container or something. But the years, being on the fire department here in town, a few other things, seen some nasty accidents. But I assume there must be some serious insurance on that vehicle and covering the town documents.
I would assume.
We'd like to,
It wasn't part of the, I can ask the questions, follow
well,
up with the company.
we would want, I think, I think you would want a copy of their
Confirmation.
insurance
Okay,
certificate,
gladly.
because you don't let people take town property without something.
They have a very good reputation. They've helped a lot of the towns.
Yeah, I noticed that
Massachusetts
none of
and
the
others.
towns listed were in Massachusetts. Every town that was listed
Okay.
on the proposal was from New York.
I can get you other towns. They do a lot of work in Massachusetts as well.
Okay, that's all. I just was read, I
Glad
read
that-
it
Yep.
from
It's all
front
right.
to back.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I didn't read it front to back, but is it digital on hardware storage, or do they do any cloud storage as well?
Cloud storage as well.
Cloud storage as well. And maintenance, any general maintenance for costs?
I didn't get that in the quote, but I could double check.
Other than that,
Nope, thank you.
thank you.
I have a bunch of questions. So first one is, how many of your office historic paper documents will be scanned? Like what percentage?
It's just the town reports.
Only the town reports, huh? And how much was that, like 29?
120 books.
120 books.
Yeah, they gave you an estimate of the pages on his proposal.
Okay,
Yeah, it's 120 books, 21 hardcover bound books, 390 pages each, 53 softbound books, 312 pages, and 46 stapled bound books at 160 pages.
Thank you.
so what format will the scanned documents be supplied to the town? What are we gonna get back?
The access through the cloud and their site to be able to access our documents. And I can find out if they can also have them, I don't know if our website would be a place to store them, or if we would just do it on the shared drive within the town itself.
So part of this, it didn't seem like that was the case, that they're putting them on their cloud, then we can use remotely, is that it? Or we have to supply a site to put these documents once we get them?
I don't know. I can't say that I have answers for that. So I will follow up. If you want to give me a list of some of the questions, I will be happy to
Yeah.
follow up with eBiz to confirm what their policies and procedures and exactly what we have access, how we have access.
I guess the concern that I have is, if we're spending this money, we'd like to make, these documents searchable by anybody and make them
Exactly.
available to the public. So
Exactly.
what's the best way of doing that? We don't have a good way of doing it,
Unless it was on the website. That's
Well, but even then,
currently-
they're not searchable. You can't search that. You can't, you couldn't go on there and search for my name. Show every instance in these reports when Mike Dempsey stood up at town meeting and made a fool of himself, You can't really search that out.
All right, I
So,
will confirm
yeah, so that's,
where they will store them so that they're searchable.
yeah, or, what do they recommend that we do?
Because that is definitely part of the purpose of this, so that
Yeah.
for public records requests, that there's a place that the public can look the information up themselves, that we can refer them to.
Okay, well, here's a copy of my questions.
Okay, awesome.
So I'll let you figure that out
Perfect.
between now and the 15th for us.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from anybody else? No? Okay,
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, next we've got the Perry Park Design Phase, offered by Stephanie Bartelt of the Conservation Commission.
I live around the corner from Perry Park, so I walk past it at least twice a day with the dog. And it's a lovely little park that includes the Civil War Memorial in front of the church. And recently, it's been vandalized. One of the park benches and one of the picnic benches have been destroyed, and somebody's been driving through it. There's some ruts at the bottom. And some ash trees have been, unfortunately, killed. So I was just hoping that we could restore the park. There is some Japanese knotweed that's starting to take over, of course. And so I submitted a proposal to bring it back.
Yeah, Kim?
I would have liked to have seen a site map.
Okay.
Now, Perry Park is on both sides of King Street.
Yeah.
It's
both
the,
sides of
it's the
King Street.
island in front of the church,
Mhm.
and then it's the land,
Yes, it extends up Union Street,
and it
actually.
extends up Union Street. And where is the infiltration of the knotweed?
All along the base of the park.
All around the island, too?
I haven't seen it on the island, no, it's the non-island park, where it's along the entire base. It's wet down there, it's wetland.
Well, it's high up on
Ish.
Union Street, but it
It
gets...
is,
But
but-
it drops off dramatically.
Exactly, yep.
And then, were you also going to, I didn't quite read this one as clear, do any restoration or something with the actual memorial?
My concern with the memorial is there's at least one dead tree and then a Norway spruce that appears to be reaching potentially the end of its lifespan. So the landscape architect that I consulted was thinking they would take a look at that as well. But my other goal is to hopefully make this park into a sort of a showcase for native plantings, and so that way it would be low maintenance if we had a native meadow. So, I mean, potentially, I don't know if that would be something they would do around a memorial like that, but like they would take a look at the trees as part of that.
Okay, thank you.
So, Stephanie, so this is basically, again, a design phase, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so you've got a landscape architect that's gonna come back with a plan, and then you would potentially come back seeking more funds to put it into place, right?
Apparently so. I did reach out to Lovely Earth, who is a local
Yeah,
landscaper, and then I reached out to somebody in Beverly as well to see if they would have any ideas. But yes, this is the design piece.
yeah, okay. As far as the memorial, that was a CPA project, about 10 years ago. Bob Guptill put it in, and they restored the whole monument, so the
Oh, it's
monument
beautiful.
itself is in great shape.
Yes, I love it.
So this $30,800 is just the initial design and analysis cost.
Yes, when I first reached out to Rebecca to ask her about Perry Park, she gave me the name of a landscape architect that she knew, so that was
This
how I
doesn't,
got that.
if we can get this one approved to you, there is no physical altercations going to be done, because this is all in design cost.
Yeah, yes.
So, you're gonna have an architecture firm come out and pay them for design for $30,000?
Well,
I'm just
that,
trying to understand.
yeah, well, I mean, that was the first quote that I got for how can we repair the park. So, it does.
Is there any like competitive bids?
Well, so again, I reached out to a local landscaper, and then I reached out to a native gardener in Beverly as well to get some information, but the landscape architect was easily reachable by phone.
But we can put it out for bid.
Certainly.
Do we have to put that out for bid for services, Rebecca? No, right? but we could, yeah. I mean, that's one cost from one company, so.
Right.
Well,
My-
that-
my-
the part of the design is also going to include the mitigation for the knotweed.
Yes, that's my hope. My hope is to show that we can get rid of knotweed, because it's really a significant problem in other parts, especially alongside the river. And also, it's very sad to see vandalism sort of take hold, and I guess that's the part that was super disturbing to me. I don't want to see our public property vandalized.
Would you happen to know what the solution is for knotweed?
I've actually done quite a bit of research, and the most recent positive outcomes that they've had have been something called the window, which is you wait until the plant flowers, and just before the ground freezes, and spray it with glyphosate.
Okay.
They've
That
had the
was-
best success with that. It's very particular. You have to wait till after it flowers and before the ground freezes, because just like with other plants, it's when it goes dormant, then it sucks all the resources down into the roots, so it would suck the glyphosate into the
Okay.
roots.
And so this would have to be done yearly?
From what I've seen, 1 or 2 years has been it for this particular method.
Okay, so but the cost would be in the next phase?
Presumably, I would have to talk to an herbicide applicator. I personally don't have an herbicide license, although I've talked to Mike about pursuing it.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Ed.
Maybe you can answer a question. What happened to the ball field that was there? Ball
I don't
field, the
know. I
backstop?
don't know anything about
It
the ball
was
field.
used- It was used, how long have you lived on Chestnut Street?
8 years.
8 years.
Oh, no, it's been gone for a
It
while.
would, well, it hasn't been going that long, but did you really, you know the kids, there used to be a backstop where you're talking about the knotweed facing Main Street, used to be a backstop there. The kids used to play softball or baseball there, the younger kids. And that, somehow that disappeared in the last couple of years. But, you know, you're talking about the herbicide. And I kind of sensitive to anything that's going to destroy bees. And I think that would do it.
Well, so what kind of bees are you talking about?
What's that? Honeybees.
So if we're talking about native bees, honeybees are not native. And so my preference would be to try to work with our native pollinators. And so I would like to have native plantings, native meadow, native shrubs, native trees to promote native pollinators, native bumblebees, native bees. Honeybees are not native. And honestly, we don't know the effect that they have on our native bees.
I think I'd do a little research on that.
I've done lots and lots of years of
My
research.
third question, several times a year, the Congregational Church uses that as for overflow parking. And so once this gets done, finished, that won't be able to be used. And, you know, some of the ruts that were there were from a couple of years ago, from when it was raining and they had an event.
This was a new rut.
Vehicles got stuck there. But I know the churches used it. The Boy Scouts have had.
Use it for their electronic pickup.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they use that land over there. So was there any thought of where the overflow cars from the Congregational Church events that they have are going to park? Kind of limited parking there on the street.
They have
You
a
can't
pretty
park
large
on
parking
Main-
lot, don't they?
What's that?
Don't they have a pretty large parking lot behind the church?
That fills up like nothing.
Fills up. And you can't park on Main Street on the state highway, so they're gonna be parking through the neighborhoods. And, so I just a question that maybe you can get answered, where are you gonna put those vehicles? And, I'll look into something that you're gonna use a spray that's gonna harm bees.
Well, the hope is to plant native grasses, shrubs, flowers, trees, and everything that will promote our native pollinators. So we need to get rid of knotweed because it creates a monoculture and destroys everything else in its path. It kills all the native things that our native ecosystem relies on.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
That is a tough thing to get.
I agree.
Tough thing to get rid of, trying all sorts of things.
So presumably, some of these questions would be answered during the study, right? Because you don't really know the answer of what the impact would be on parking necessarily.
Yeah.
Or what the impact would be on use, all of that is going to have to be studied and answered by the landscape architect and whoever else you use to outline what Phase 2 is. So the idea is, this is a good idea to design it before we go jumping into doing it, because during the design phase, you may find out that, there's other issues that you didn't really think
Yeah.
about, right?
I know, the concept work that they're talking about
It's a
in their
little over an
proposal.
acre. That has to be all
Yeah, so,
turned
you
out.
know,
Good questions.
yeah, so, I think Ed's questions are good questions, but you probably, you can't answer those questions right now, because we don't have enough information.
And my only concern would be and I know it's a difficult thing with the way contractors work right now, but trying to get at least a second quote from someone, because to only go by $30,000 for the architectural landscape, I don't know if that's high, low, or whatnot.
Yeah, me
So,
neither.
and I know it's difficult, you've called 2 other places and you get no callbacks and it's back and forth. But I'd be interested to see where someone else might be at. That would be the only, because I did read through the rest of the proposal and trying to bring in the rest of the native to get rid of the get rid of that knotweed and then bring in the native, which is a great idea. But 30 grand is a lot for architectural, I
True, but if you're
think,
gonna bring up concepts like parking, I mean, that's outside of just a regular gardener's scope, so like
Agreed.
maybe
Yep.
maybe it's not a bad quote for them to come up with concept design.
Right. Yeah, who knows? I'd just be interested to see if someone else come in at 20, it could be at $10,000, because this person may not want to do it. Just throw you a number. It's miserable part of all of it.
I'm all set.
Okay, anybody else? No?
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you.
Stephanie.
Thank you.
Next, I'm going to jump down to the Pines parking enhancements. Rebecca, once again.
So this project is for the additional, or to attempt to create a connection point from the town hall complex into the Pines Recreation Area, and to essentially create an ADA accessible path towards the backside of the parking lot down into the Pines section, so that we can utilize the overflow parking that we see quite frequently during some of our larger events, such as the Pine Speedway reunion, or like Groveland Day, where we have things set up down at the Pines Recreation Area and people are parking over here and there's no way to safely get from this parking lot down to the Pines Recreation Area. So you'll often see people with strollers pushing them down the hill, or, people running up and down the hill to get to this parking lot to the Pines Recreation Area. So this proposal takes a look at, one, creating that connection path from this parking lot to that parking lot. Again, making sure that it's ADA accessible so that you can get down there or up to this parking lot either with a wheelchair or with a stroller. It also takes into consideration maximizing the current parking that we have down at the Pines. As many of you know, this is not the final top coat for the pavement down at the Pines. It was never completely finished, which is why the speed bumps you'll find a lot higher. than what they're supposed to be. So this takes into consideration also with the creation of the dog park over up at the top of the Pines. A lot of people have been parking on the side of the road in order to easily access the dog park. So this also intends to create additional angled parking in front of the dog park in the other direction, so that people can safely pull off to the side and not on the grass. And it also proposes to pave the section in between the parking lot area up and towards the boat ramp, and to provide additional angled parking, to provide additional parking spaces as well. And also proposes to put in pavement marking so that you can clearly delineate the parking spaces that we have situated in the area. So the total project cost is $523,110. That also includes hiring an engineer, because we need to make sure that the connection point is ADA accessible. We will need to work with an engineer to make sure that we have the proper slopes, as well as the correct fill that's required in order to get those slopes to be accurate. So again, we don't know the exact location of the connection point between the parking lot here and the parking lot down there. We believe upon initial assessment that it will be again further at the backside of the parking lot because the grades are easily more manageable. But we will be making sure that regardless, you are able to access, and that the engineers have confirmed that that would be the ideal location when we get further into the process if we are successful with our application.
Rebecca, do you know offhand how many parking spots there are down in the Pines, and then how many are up here in Town Hall and behind the fire department?
I don't have a final count, but I can definitely get that information for you.
You looking at me?
Any questions?
I noticed in your proposal that you're going to have Rennie Carroll, the highway superintendent, do some supervisory work down there when this is being done.
That is what he has proposed. Originally, when assembling the estimate for this project, again, working with Annie Schindler, the town planner and conservation agent, we were looking at multiple companies and ways of figuring out how we could get this accomplished and trying to keep costs low. So knowing that we have a current pavement contract with our contractor through the Chapter 90 funds, we thought that it would be a way to take advantage of that contract and the resources we have available in communicating that desire to the highway superintendent. He put together an estimate based upon the figures that he had per that contract, and as part of that proposal that he then provided to us, which was included in your packet, he also included the construction monitoring fee to himself.
Okay. And then, I don't know if I wrote this down correctly. Did you have any EV spaces designed down there?
I'm sorry, what spaces?
Electric vehicle spaces?
Yes, we just recently received a grant, the Groveland Municipal Light Department received a grant, and they did install, I believe, one electric vehicle charging station down at the Pines.
Okay, is there any supplemental spaces going to be in this new section of spaces for that?
We had not talked about it, but there is a possibility if that's something that the town would like to explore.
Okay, because then you'd be looking at the actual cost of the EV station and then the electrical fee. I just got done 7 years in the high school, and we put in 6, and they were not cheap.
Yeah, so the one we have down there.
$6,000 or $7,000 apiece.
The one we have down there currently, it did not cost the town a dime, and we are not paying for the electricity usage of the facility itself. So we would need to bring in the Groveland Municipal Light General Manager to speak more to the specifics of that, but this proposal does not provide for adding any additional charging stations at this point in time, and it gives the opportunity to the town and the municipal light plant to grow in the future if they choose to go in that direction.
This is just a suggestion, would be to look at that closely before you do your final paving, to make sure that the electrical, if they do it 3 years down the road from now,
It's already done.
Oh, is it?
There's a charging station there already.
Yeah, but,
No, just a finished coat.
okay, it's large enough?
Yeah, it's just, yeah, the spot to parking to
The spark
charge?
and basically the feed?
Yeah, it's been up and running and used, so I
Okay.
don't have an electric vehicle, but it's usable.
Because I've run into, it's a different subject, but town wanted to refeed the Groveland Housing, except for the piping is too small when they brought it in from Main Street. So that means running all new piping from Main Street into the Groveland Housing. And electric department said, not us. Even though it's a Groveland facility. So I try and look ahead, a couple, 3 years. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Again, this is another project I think we need a map of, along with what the drawing, a conceptual drawing of what the ramp down from the town hall to the Pines is gonna look like. And I know you had mentioned the fact that it was going to be handicap accessible. There have to be some construction out here removing the fence and in that area, but I think we should have some drawings and see what it looks like, where it's gonna be. And in addition, you're gonna mark out the parking spaces down at the Pines, been needed for a long time. But with a count of how many spots you have down there, here, and over behind the police and fire station.
So for the
I
consent,
don't think I don't think there's gonna be enough. I think we're gonna have to come up with some additional parking, somewhere down at the Pines, especially in some of these large events, whether they be baseball games or tournament games. You mentioned Groveland Day, there's somewhere in there, couldn't find it now, but someone mentioned about 1,000 people were there on Groveland Day.
Yeah.
That, I think you need probably additional parking. Well, let's just see how many spots down there and out behind the police and fire station and the town hall. And a drawing of what the ramp is gonna look like. It's gonna be lit.
I believe, I'm not 100% positive, the ramp and walkway engineering is part of the proposal, so I don't have that conceptual, that's part of this $25,000 that we're asking for, so that they can get you the conceptual drawing and the exact location of where that will physically be placed. But I can definitely get you the count of the existing parking spaces down at the Pines here and behind the police and fire, and I can also provide you an estimate of the parking spaces that we are looking to add through this proposal. And I would definitely agree with you. I think that the popularity of Groveland Day, the Pine Speedway Reunion, and some of our other local events such as Pumpkin Fest has drawn a very large crowd, and I do believe that you are right, that there still won't be enough parking based upon what we've been able to attract here in Groveland.
And I think the ramp should be lit in some way.
I'm sure there would be some type of,
It'd be pretty tough to try to climb up there late evening when it's dark.
Yeah, there used to be a set of stairs going down there. They were railroad ties
With sand.
with sand, yes.
we can go back that direction if you want.
No, they were not, let me put it this way, they were good for anybody 30 and under.
Yep.
But some of us senior citizens, they're not good.
You also have to be able to jump over that guardrail fence now, which is tricky.
But that's not a problem.
It is with the stroller
Especially a double stroke.
and 3 kids carrying them.
So I will provide that additional information at the next meeting or sooner for you to disperse among the board.
Yeah, sure.
It does say here that there's an additional 25, minimum 25 new spots with this project alone. And I think ADA, they would have to have lighting because,
Yeah, it
especially
does.
with the.
It's required.
I think it's required.
And it can't exceed 1 inch per foot, linear
Yeah,
foot.
there's-
So I mean, you got a good 10-foot elevation. So that ramp's gonna be,
Well, more than that.
oh, yeah, probably 15.
More
Yeah.
than that,
A
too.
couple 100 foot, the ramp.
Yeah, it's gonna be a zigzag.
Oh,
No
yeah.
way to go straight down, it's gonna
Oh,
be a
and your
zigzag.
landings have to be level, they can't
Yeah.
even have a slope in them.
With railings?
Yeah, with railings.
Any other questions? Okay, why don't you tell us about the next one while you're there? The Shanahan Field parking one.
So this is for the creation of parking at the Shanahan Fields. This is not a new application. We had proposed this initial project last year. It was tabled at town meeting due to some confusion over land ownership with the abutters for this particular request. So we tried to give some more details. A lot of the feedback that we had received from the initial go-around was that they wanted to see more of the conceptual drawings, and they wanted approval of the design, and how the design was gonna shape up and end in the future. So, as part of the application, we went back to the engineer, and again, trying to be mindful of the fact that we don't have the design monies in hand. They were willing to work with us to try and give you a little bit more details, as to what that potential layout could look like and how many additional spaces that we would be able to, or excuse me, how many spaces we would be able to get with the current concept, noting again that it's not at fully designed phase. And as you'll see, because of that, we've added that additional expense into the cost estimate for the project, for that to be taken into consideration. So I know that there was some concerns last time about whether or not there'd be lighting and what type of drainage structures we'd be using. So all of that information has been added to the application. The cost estimate for the project has increased due to the fact that we have in fact included some of those additional requests, such as, design, engineering plans. We still would like to move forward with a larger design to accommodate the growing need that is happening over at the Shanahan Field. Currently, people are parking along the street. As mentioned in the application, this is not legal. Technically, per our bylaw as cited, you cannot park on a sidewalk and it should be enforced. But because there are no other parking allotments for that field, we continue to see that violated, and we are looking to rectify that by providing adequate parking at that facility so that we can have the soccer teams and other teams utilize that field safely. It's also something that the neighbors have complained about throughout the years, about people parking in front of their driveways, blocking their sight distances. So it's something that is greatly needed. And so before you, we're looking at a total cost of $886,000, which is close to double of what we were requesting last year. And again, you can look at the estimate that was provided for the unit prices. Again, estimates, we're not certain until we have the final design, and that also includes the engineering cost of $70,000.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, do you know if the dispute, if you want to call it that, or whatever, the river's edge has been finalized?
So that is a civil matter between two property owners. It actually has nothing to do with the town at all. The town isn't proposing to alter the design and push it in that direction, mainly because we have a building there. It's the Knox Building that's being utilized by the Historic Society. The town does not own it. It is on town property. We have not moved it. We have discussed potentially finding other locations, but in those conversations, it was decided that it should remain for now. So because that building is there, the parking lot is being pushed in the other direction, and therefore, whatever civil dispute between the use of River's Edge and those two property owners has nothing to do with this project, and it has nothing to do with the town at the current time.
Okay. I remember when the Knox Building, which was to be Dr. Dark's dentist office, was rolled down the street and put there. But the other thing is I did notice that you have a couple EV spaces delineated on your preliminary drawing, but in the budget, there is no monies for putting the chargers in.
Yes, and again, this is just a a conceptual design. It hasn't gone through the rigor and discussion that it needs to. So it could be something that we're not even considering at this point, and the engineers have just put it on. We just asked for something that we could work with that provide a little bit more detail about the circulation and the parking spaces and the configuration that we were looking for. Those types of details have not been vetted at this point in time.
Okay. I just, when it gets presented to the town at the town meeting, you know, it'd be nice to have a full board and then be able to sit there and show everybody. But you're gonna get questions about, okay, I just bought an electric vehicle, you know, am I gonna be able to charge it while I'm over there watching my kids play soccer and so forth and so on? And they're all cost items that are gonna push that budget even higher.
Like they said for the Pines, with the success that the Groveland Municipal Light Plant has had in terms of, or the department has had with grants and getting those electric charging stations for no cost to the town and operating at no cost to the town, I think that a future partnership with them would be something that we could do in the future and potentially be part of this project. And that's probably why it's part of the conceptual plan, but just, again, those details have not been finalized. So if it does add price to the concept, then obviously we would eliminate those prices to make it the most feasible project and to give us the best foundation moving forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Ed.
Look, I opposed this the last year when this came up for a couple of reasons. One, the cutting down of, what was it, 9 trees. 9, 10 trees that the garden club put up like 9 years ago. And I know you're gonna replace them with some other trees, but you got vibrant trees that they're gonna cut down, they're gonna put in new trees, obviously gonna be smaller. It just seems like that's not a conservation way of cutting down live trees that there's nothing wrong with them, that a town organization spent their money to put them in. So that part I don't like. But this problem is not a problem. It's and it was brought up a year ago. It really only is on Saturdays and Sundays for about 10 Saturdays and Sundays during the summer. And the parking on the sidewalk that you alluded to is not along the Main Street, the one-way section, because they park, if you go down there, you go down there all the time. And they're parked on the side of the road. It's a one-way street. It's not a problem with the way they're parking. Where they may park on the sidewalk is on Main Street in front of the horseshoe area. And that's easily mitigated. But we're gonna spend 800 and something thousand for something that only affects the weekends for 10 weeks out of the summer. This has been going on since the soccer field was put in there. It's not a problem. The other problem is, and I know you said that it's a civil matter as far as the dispute over the land, and it's not a town problem. Yes, it is, because right now, the way it looks is the house that's out back is using town property to access their house. And if, through the court case, if where the driveway is shown on the map where it's supposed to be, is shown that they're not gonna be able to use that, then the house out in the back may have to buy the property off of the town of Groveland that goes out back. Because there isn't, you can't name me another house in the town of Groveland that uses town property to access it. And so, we shouldn't be letting somebody use town property, let them buy it. If the court case comes out so that the fact that they can't put it there, then they're gonna have to use town property that they're using now, then let them buy it. So I think that, I haven't spoke to the landowner, that where the driveway would go through the property. recently, but I think this, last year it was 500,000. Now it's up to 800 and something thousand. Way too much money, in my opinion. But I just, it just doesn't make any sense to be cutting down trees that are living, there's a lot of dead trees around that we can get rid of. I'm all set, Mike, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
So with the property, I mean, the Historical Society doesn't own the property, and yet they have a building on town property. So if we're going to be taking action about property ownership and who has the rights to locate onto town property, then the Board of Selectmen should proceed with those issues. In regards to the trees, the most recent tree was knocked down in the most recent storm. I don't know if anyone saw, the highway had to come and they had to remove it. Additionally, I'm not sure when the garden club decided to plant those trees, but it's not like it's doing us any favors from a conservation perspective when it's right in the middle of us trying to utilize property to its full advantage. But I can, again, give you more information in regards to the cost, but all of that has to do with the comments and feedback we initially received, which was due to drainage and also due to engineering, which were included, as well as inflationary prices, which we're seeing everywhere, all over.
I thought, Rebecca, that last year, when this issue was brought up about the trees, that ultimately there was a potential solution just by moving things around. And obviously, again, you're only in the very preliminary conceptual stage right now, and I would think that if we wanted to preserve as many trees as possible, might not be able to preserve them all, that, you know, that would be built into the actual design, right?
We definitely have an ability to shift the parking lot over. I'm not sure how many trees we can potentially save, but again, just even with the VZ rewilding project, we just took down how many trees and shredded all of that area in order to preserve and protect and plant new trees. So it's not as though we're trying to destroy habitat, we're not trying to destroy the environment, we're trying to enhance an area in which we allow people to utilize for recreational purposes and don't provide them safe access to it. So it's not like we're trying to take down the trees to harm the environment. We're talking about planting trees that are more in line with the buffer that's required and to provide additional access, again, to a recreational opportunity here for the town.
And how many current handicap accessible parking spots exist at Shanahan Field now?
None.
Okay, thank you.
So, to go back to Ed, so I have children that play soccer, and it's not just summertime. They play 2 different seasons. It's there for probably 3/4 of the year. Parking on that one-way Main Street, we have told to not park on the sidewalk, right? We know we can park on that dirt grass area, but as you know, drivers nowadays are very aggressive, not paying attention with text messaging and everything else. When you step out onto that side of the street, cars are flying by, and I have 5, 4, and 2-year-old. It's dangerous. Cars, and they do not slow down. I'm a good-sized guy, I have no problem standing out, stepping out, trying to get them to slow down, and they just look at me as if, what do you think you're doing? That's a small street for cars to be out there, and cars aren't all small now. You got big trucks that are parking there. You don't have a lot of room. Even the minivan, sliding doors, it's scary. So I just wanted to address that part of it. The parking, it's hairy down there, and cars are flying by.
Do you remember when that street was two-way? It used to be a two-way street.
Yep.
And now, so,
With no parking, I would assume?
what's that?
With no parking on the
Right.
side of the street. It had to be no parking with 2-way, I would assume. There's no way you could have parking on that street with 2-way street.
Well, they did it.
And it was a problem, I think that's why they
Yeah.
changed it to one-way.
And so, what I wanted to say was, in that proposal, there is a letter from the police department saying that they are for this because of that safety concern. Like I said, I'm there almost every weekend on different events. We have the firework event, things like that. It is busy and it is unsafe. As far as the trees, I know that's in the proposal to replant new trees. I know it's tough, but I prefer to have the safety of children and people before we have a bad accident than worry about some trees that can be replanted and will be reestablished. Just my opinion.
Anybody else?
Has this gone through a bidding process?
No, we would have to go, and the engineering would not need to go out for bid, but the construction would.
So the prices could fluctuate?
Yes,
Okay.
very much so. And that would also be contributed to the design. So if they're accounting for a certain number of drainage structures and they only need 3 instead of 4, the cost could fluctuate that way as well. And we've also been mindful of prevailing wage rates as part of this project as well.
Yeah, so on all the projects, we vote up to a certain amount because obviously we're not putting the thing out to bid until the money is actually voted. So it's always a hope that we're not going to spend, we can't spend more than what we vote, but hopefully the price will go down when you actually put it out to bid. Because all of these things, we just call up a vendor and get an estimate, which, however good that is.
I got a question.
Yep.
I've been involved in several town projects, and they always had to go out to competitive bid, even for the architect. I mean, we interviewed 7 architects here just for the Bagnell School and whittled it down and finally ended up with an architect.
It depends on the process. If it's, excuse me, may I answer?
And I'm just looking for an
If it's a
explanation.
design build, then you would need to go out through a competitive process, and it's
Okay.
usually for vertical construction. When it's horizontal construction and it's just engineering and those types of, or landscape design and architectural services of that nature, there is an exemption under the procurement laws for that. So, but whenever it comes to building and it's a design build, you're correct. You usually do need to go out for bid for your engineer and your architect.
Okay. The only suggestion I would make is that I would love to see, I'd feel much more comfortable with competitive bidding on a project that would possibly run $800,000 to $900,000, even on the architecture, or even on the design.
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes without saying, yes.
Yeah,
I
But
think,
according to the law, it's not required.
no, right.
But we're dealing with taxpayer money. We're just representatives on the
Right.
committee. I think we need to be, if we have to, we err on the side of caution.
Oh, I think that there's also another way to go about that without having to go through a very competitive process and invest in times and monies in terms of noticing requirements that are also required as part of the procurement process.
Right.
Is very easily just doing sound management or sound practices, which involve getting quotes from companies. So we don't necessarily have to go out to bid, but we
But if you
can
had
shop around
Two
to.
quotes you could compare.
And to take the lowest qualified bidder, for sure. And that's definitely something we do with all of our projects, even when it doesn't meet the threshold, because like you said, some companies are gonna go real high, other companies are gonna come in mid, and the other companies are gonna come in low.
Lowball.
And you really wanna find that company that's gonna give you the bargain, for
The other
sure.
thing that I still think is when it gets presented at a town meeting, you've got to assure the public, the residents, their 3% money, that, okay, yes, it was competitive. We had 3 different quotes, doesn't have to say competitive, but we had 2 different quotes, and this gentleman was local, he was the low bidder, he comes with good references. But it doesn't go over real well when, oh yeah, we had 1 quote. People have a little something get stuck in their craw on that.
And rightfully so.
Okay, I'm fine, thank you.
Yeah, Ed, go ahead.
Just a follow-up. Looking at the plans, why do we need lights in the parking lot for a athletic field that doesn't have night events? I know that was cut out when it was presented a year ago. I think it was a $500,000 project, and that was brought up, the fact that, why do you need lights in the parking lot when there's no lights in the field, so obviously they can't be there at night. That doesn't make any sense.
So the current application for the Pentucket Youth Soccer is for Monday through Friday, and they play from 4 until dark. And the reason they say dark is because dark can happen at different times of the year. So they actually would like to be able to utilize the field a lot longer, but they can't because there's no lighting opportunities. Additionally, as we've experienced at Washington Park, when people are parked and they're pulling out of the parking lot, it's nice to have that additional lighting so that there's safety mechanisms in place for people to pull in and pull out safely, even when it's around 4:30, 5 o'clock, then it gets dark earlier on in the evening hours. So when we originally had talked about it, we were talking about, cutting costs and trying to make it work. But after listening to feedback of those who are proponents of the project and listening to those, the feedback just in general, if we're going to do it and we're going to spend the money, the thought process is that we do it right and we do it thoughtfully and we give it an opportunity to be successful. And so we had added the lights back in to provide that safety, security, as well as maybe potentially offer the Shanahan Field more time to operate closer to the evening hours. Obviously not taking into consideration, obviously not trying to impact the surrounding neighborhoods with any spillover from the light into the private property.
Do you anticipate coming back in future years to put lights in that field?
I can't say what another person is going to come and ask for the town. That's not what the proposal is before you this evening, but if the Pentucket Youth Soccer or if the Groveland Youth Soccer or any of those leagues, or if a resident wants to put lights in there, I can't say that they won't.
I'm all set, Mike, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? No?
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next proposal is 114 Center Street purchase, and I believe that having an open meeting is going to have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of our town with the purchase. So I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session according to Mass General Law 38, Section 21, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property because of the detrimental effect that having an open meeting would be on the negotiating position of our town, and then to reconvene in open session. Is there a second
Mike, is
on
that is that a reason to go into an executive session?
Yes.
Would it have to be posted on the agenda?
No, not necessarily.
I don't know anything about executive sessions.
I'm not opposed as long as it doesn't break any type of laws that we're not supposed to be in
Yeah.
executive session prior to. But I understand the reasoning behind it.
Sure, sure. We're not going to take any votes. We are only going to discuss.
The purchase of a property. Can we do that can we open discussion, purchase of property without talking about funding?
Yes, as long as we don't mention any numbers. But, so that's really a matter of what the proposal came in, but I was planning on requesting a different number from that. So, we don't need to talk about anything to do with the pricing other than to talk about the project itself and the purposes for buying it. So if the committee is comfortable with not discussing the pricing, then I'm okay with not going into executive session.
I got no problem doing that.
That's okay?
Yeah, with me.
Okay,
I got a couple questions.
sure. So let me just,
Somebody to present on this, or?
yeah, I'm going to. So,
Oh, you can get the questions.
yes. So this project involves purchasing approximately a 17-acre parcel of land. It's located on Center Street, between Center Street and the corner of Washington Street, next to St. Patrick's Church. St. Patrick's Church owns 19 acres there, and so the Archdiocese of Boston, who controls it, is wanting to sell off 17 acres of that. So this has nothing to do with the church itself. The church is going to remain there. They're going to keep their parking lot. It's just the forested land behind it. It's primarily forested with Johnson's Creek running through it and a significant amount of wetlands. The other thing that's on the parcel is a brick building that's about 8,000 square feet that the EPA used to clean up the Superfund site to filter out. It was a filtration building with their system. So they're all done there. They've declared the site cleaned up. So they had no use. They turned the building back over to the Archdiocese. And so that's the property. So the reason why, there's 4 reasons why I believe the town should purchase this 17 acres with the building on it, is number one, we have done studies for development at 150 Center Street. One of the ideas is to do some of the work in what's considered turtle habitat by Natural Heritage and endangered species. And whenever you do that, they want us to mitigate it by providing land somewhere else. So this parcel, since it's really not buildable, it's all forested and wetlands, is great place to use for any mitigation space that they require if that land is developed. And then the second thing related to that is that right now there is only one entrance and exit to the 150 Center Street parcel, right there where the gate is. So this would give us a second potential entrance over at 46 Washington Street, where the last brick mill building there is that the town currently owns. So that's the second reason. The third reason is that the building on the site offers a potential use, number of potential things, but you know, the first thing that comes to mind is a potential affordable housing site. The fourth thing is to protect the open space, and you know, obviously I'm all for protecting open space, turtle habitat, and the aquifer. So we kind of get that thrown in as a bonus. We have been, what I'd say, in semi-negotiations with the Archdiocese for about a year, over a year, talking to the real estate department and going back and forth. We met with the people at the church, Rebecca and I, and the water department. We had a presentation there about our interest in the property. And only recently, just the beginning of this month, finally the Archdiocese decided to put it out to open bidding. So they aren't putting a price on it. They're just saying, we're going to take whatever proposals we get, and we might pick the highest one, or we might negotiate with somebody. They're not really clear on what they're going to do. So that's my reason for not wanting to talk about pricing, because if somebody else knows what we're going to pay or what we could pay, all they need to, if they're really interested in it, then all they need to do is put a bid in for a little bit more. as far as purchasing land, the town cannot pay for any more than what a appraisal, the appraisal value of the land. So we did have an appraisal done about a year ago, so we have that number, and that number is the maximum that we could purchase the property for. You know, we may not end up putting that number in as the bid. You kind of have to think about what we really want to spend on it and what the value is total for the town. So that's where we're at.
Oh, okay. I read the proposal,
Yep,
and I had a couple questions.
sure.
You have an access point where the parking lot ends over on Center Street, and it goes to a wooded section to get to the property. You have an access point if you come in by the old, what is the water department.
Yeah,
The building that's put behind Valley Screw, which is the abandoned building out front for any newcomers. And then the Knights of Columbus was changed into a residence. There is no legal access, even though they used it to get to that building for the EPA work.
yes.
So that was just a point of interest. And second thing is, if the town gets the property,
Yep,
there will be costs associated with the maintenance of an existing building. There will be costs if the town decides to take the building down. And this is gonna raise a real sore subject. I was at the town meeting many, many years ago when we purchased VZ Park, and it was not supposed to cost the town anything. And since then, we've invested over $1 million up there. And so I want it on record that there could be costs associated with, because you can't use the building as it is right now because all it is a broken up bunch of slab. And then you have to put a road in to get to it, because whoever owns Valley Screw can just basically put up a fence and say, you ain't going across my property.
yes. No, that's certainly an issue.
It's got some serious hornets
Well,
hanging around.
that's the biggest issue. I think, Kim, you're right, you know, is what's the plan for that building?
Yeah.
You know, I think it certain.
Well, the archdiocese ain't gonna take it
No,
down.
it certainly would be a lot more straightforward if that building wasn't there. But on the other hand, if we used the building and we found a way to use it and get access to it, then it's a significant asset
Oh, agreed.
that we're purchasing. So, you know, I understand what you're saying. I'm fully aware of those difficulties, you know.
Because the other thing, and you and I had spoken a while ago, when there was rumor that the town wanted to possibly convert the old water department, the building would have to be abated. It doesn't have a sufficient septic system, and there is no sewer on Washington Street or Center Street.
Yeah,
So therefore, any development in this possible 17-acre purchase could not be for condos unless they wanted to put themselves in a full septic systems. And you still have the distance from the existing pond, which is down behind the water department. So it's, I'd like the land, it'd be nice to have it, but I also want everything to be clear that there are costs associated with it. The purchase costs, fine, but then there's the cost of developing a roadway in, and if the building gets utilized, I'm sure that the building inspector will want to see the proper septic system and design for it.
The building does have a septic system,
Okay.
so that's
That I
there.
didn't-
But is it adequate for some use?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
Right.
it's good for, 5 or 6 guys or something.
Yeah, right,
or
it may not
or
be
Workers,
adequate
let me put
for,
this way, maybe be correct. But you couldn't put 50 people in there.
No, right.
No.
So one of the original thoughts was the water department was interested in using that building as their own filtration system there. But they have since decided that the cost to put it there would be too much
Prohibitive.
because, it's a long way to their system, so. So they're not interested in that right now, as far as a filtration system. Whether they'd be interested in it for another use is open for debate.
Okay, that's it. Said my piece.
No, thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Ed.
The building out in the back of the Valley Screw, do you know, did the EPA have an easement to get to that building, or did they just do it?
No, from what Rebecca and I have investigated, as much as we can find, there is no easement to that back building. So,
Is this still considered a Superfund site?
no, not really. It's
We
been,
got dispensation in
It's been-
writing?
it's been turned over to Mass DEP, and Mass DEP gave it back to the church, so it really doesn't have any, neither party, EPA or DEP, are interested in having to do anything there anymore.
But is it still technically part of the Superfund site?
No, I don't think so. They don't have any monitoring wells on that property. There are monitoring wells elsewhere, but the monitoring wells, I don't think there's any more monitoring wells.
There's still the
on-
monitoring wells around Valley Screw.
Yes, and also on the town property, there's some monitoring wells that go back
Yeah.
behind 46 Washington Street.
Okay.
The other thing is Valley Screw, that's a big question. What's going to happen with that? Originally,
Been closed for what, 25 years?
yeah, well,
The roof's caved in?
right. So is it going to be sold? Would the town buy it? Would the town take it? There's a bunch of issues with that, which certainly would address, again, access to that building, so.
Is the taxes still paid on it?
No, I don't think so. No.
Also, basically, it's tax deficient.
Yeah, the town could take it for taxes, but
Then you incur more costs.
so I think the idea is to be very careful before the town decides to take it, because, it could be costly. Any other questions? Okay. No? Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So, we've heard from everybody. In the packet that I handed out to you, we have the financial state of our CPA funds, and also what the impact would be with the current proposals. So, right now, we've got a total of $2,600,000 in our estimated fund balances. which include the three categories: open space, historic preservation, community housing, and then those are all set-asides, and then the general amount. And then on the right-hand column, I subtracted the dollar amounts from the projects that you see down below, and that's what we end up with. But that's without the fiscal year 2023. So down below that, the fiscal year 23 numbers of what was collected, we collected 447,536 with a 44.6% match. We received 199,791. So that brings the new balance as of if all those projects were approved, we would be back up to about 1.472 million in our account. So we're not, despite the fact that, if all of these projects were funded and we spent 1.748 million, which is significant, we still end up with 1.472 million in our funds. Any questions on the finance stuff? I mean, some of it, these are estimates, because we also have more money that has been put back that wasn't spent. So Rebecca's working on that. She's still working on that to get, whenever a project doesn't get done, we have a few projects that never happen, only about 2 or 3 of them. But that money goes back into the fund. And then any money that gets left over from what was voted goes back into the fund. So these numbers of the current balance only include what was not voted. So that's totally non-committed funds there. And then it actually is more than that because some of the committed funds go back in. But that's on Rebecca to figure that amount out. The next item is the minutes from our 2023 November 1st meeting, and we can take a motion to approve it unless anyone has any changes.
I'd say thanks to Ed for calling out that chairperson, so we have that on the next agenda list in February. But other than that, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting that was on
November 1.
November 1, 2023.
I'll second it.
Any questions on that motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. And so our next meeting will be here at Town Hall, February 15th at 6:30. And we are looking for some answers back from the Pines Shade and Seating one, the scanning documents, the Perry Park design, the Pines parking enhancements, and the Shanahan Field parking, and the 114 Center Street purchase. So the only people that get a pass are Claire and my wife Jan. they don't have to come back unless they want to. But
She
hopefully.
already left.
Yes.
You have your keys?
Yes. So, hopefully we'll hear from the 6 projects, some of this stuff, and before that, and we'll email it out to everybody so that we can come in and make a decision next time on each one of these. Any other items before we take a motion to adjourn?
Nope, just thank you for the proposals.
Yes, yes. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Who seconded? Okay. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.